Hi, welcome to Visionary Ventures. If you're back, if you're returning, or if this is your first time watching, thanks. I've changed the orientation of my setup a little bit. I have more light. I do, in fact, have a ring light right in front of me, and which should help with the lighting a little bit. And I've moved my chair over a little. I'm between jobs right now. Hopefully, I'll be getting a job soon. There's one in mind, and I'm going to be saving up for a microphone that I have in mind. For those curious, it's a Shure M7 Plus or variation, Shure M7 M something or other, depending on whether I'll go with the version that has the USB port. Anyway, I wanted to talk about Teshuvah. This is a Jewish concept, and I'm Jewish, and I love sharing my Jewish heritage, and it all relates to philosophy. This channel is about exploring theories of the universe and understanding one's life experiences and understanding oneself. All right. So let me first explain what Teshuvah is. It's a Hebrew term. It's often translated as charity, or in some sense, people might relate it to justice. Literally, I like to break a word down etymologically. Literally, it comes from shav, which refers to sitting down. It's also used it's also translated to mean turn around, return. It's a feminine, teshuvah is a feminine form of it. And it's also been translated as repentance. And that's what I'm going to get into. It's not necessarily exactly translatable as repentance. There's a lot more to it. Of course, it's Jewish, so there's a lot more, of course, to it. This coming September 22nd, the evening of the 22nd, will be Rosh Hashanah, which literally means head of the year. Rosh means head, Rosh or Resh means head, Ha means the, Shana means year, head of the year. And that begins 9 days of 9 days of seeking out forgiveness amongst each other. And then on the 10th day is Yom Kippur, literally means Day of Atonement. The word itself, atonement, is an English word that I've read means at one mint. Somebody was trying to find a good word for it, and he made up the word at one mint. Which actually, now that I think about it, kind of relates to what I'm going to talk about in terms of Teshuvah. So you're seeking forgiveness during these 9 days, and then on the 10th day, you seek, we as a society seek God's forgiveness. And there's a list of various things that we seek forgiveness from God for, I think, letting wars happen or continue to happen, letting people go hungry, not studying enough, or not, as the phrase goes, it's something like not dwelling in houses of study. There's a list of them that we recite during Yom Kippur, and that links with the Jewish soul, the Jewish concept of justice, and why Jews are so urged to debate ethics. And in fact, in the Bible, in the Torah, specifically the 5 books of Moses known as the Torah, there's a spot, I don't remember exactly where, it says, justice, justice shall you pursue. And it's interesting, even the word pursue means you don't necessarily get it, but you are striving for it and you're pursuing it. So anyway, that out of the way. what prompted this video was watching a YouTube video by a rabbi at a lectern. He was talking about another rabbi, and I didn't write down the rabbi's specific names, but he was talking about having conversed with this rabbi who had met Bill Clinton when Bill Clinton was president. This would have been 1998, and at that point, President Clinton had been embroiled in impeachment efforts in Congress and the Monica Lewinsky scandal and so forth. And the rabbi mentioned that Bill Clinton came up to him and asked him about Teshuvah, what he thought of Teshuvah. And the rabbi, not the rabbi giving the YouTube video, I'm talking about the rabbi who told him the story. He was about to explain Teshuvah when President Clinton, being the scholar, Rhodes Scholar he was, it still is, said, he interrupted him and he said, there are two views that he's heard. He's heard one view, and I don't remember that particular interpretation, the halakhic, I'll call it the halakhic interpretation. Then there's the Rabbi Kook interpretation. Now I'll first describe halakhic. How do I explain halakhic? Halakhic is, I guess you could call it like a protocol. It's, you've heard the term, probably heard the term kosher. It's halakhic. Halakha means the prescribed way of going about something in a Jewish custom. It could refer to traditions, it could refer to commandments, following commandments, how do you observe commandments, stuff like that, halakha. Right, so halakhically, how do you observe this? What's the best way to observe is perhaps an off word. How do you enact the commandment? How do you follow through doing the commandment? How do you do the commandment in a prescribed Jewish way? So there's that view, and then there's Rabbi Kook's view. And who's Rabbi Kook? He was born, I believe, in 1865. I have it here. 1865 to 1965 is what I wrote down here. His name is Rabbi Abraham Isaac Kook. I know for those of you biblically educated, it's kind of funny that it's probably no coincidence that his middle name was Isaac. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the three, father, son, the three primary patriarchs in Judaism, other than Moses. Abraham's son is Isaac, Isaac's son is Jacob. So anyway, I thought it was interesting that his name is Abraham Isaac Kook. But anyway, he was the chief, from what I read, he's the chief rabbi, he was the chief rabbi of, it said the Holy Land, which I interpret to be Israel. So he was more mystical. He had a more mystical take on it, on Teshuvah. He seemed to be, he seemed to have a mindset of Kabbalah. What is Kabbalah? For those of you who don't know, this is difficult to explain. Let me see how to explain it. It's not just mysticism. Kabbalah is philosophical. It's as if you were to add folklore with philosophy and metaphysical. I guess metaphysical is perhaps the closest term to Kabbalah, what Kabbalah is. So I'm myself more in tune with Kabbalah. So I'd like to read up more on Rabbi Kook. But anyway, all right, so here are the two interpretations. President Clinton was curious which one this rabbi he was talking to um, um, favored or interpreted. What was his mindset in terms of Teshuvah? Was it more halakhic or was it more Kabbalistic? And so he had been told that several people had been urging him, Bill Clinton, to do Teshuvah. In other words, to turn around. In Judaism, the concept of sin, chet, is that you've gone astray. It's as if there's a path and you go down the path, the right path, and then you go astray from that path. I've also read it as it being an archery term or related to archery. In other words, the arrow missed the target. You've missed the target, and I like that. It's not evil. It doesn't deal with demonic aspects. It's simply the concept of sin. It's as though you are on the straight and narrow and you deviated. You fell away from the correct straight path. And that relates to Teshuvah, what I'm going to talk about. I mean, specifically the interpretation of Teshuvah I'm going to talk about. So Bill Clinton had been told to do Teshuvah, and he was curious which version or which interpretation this rabbi he was talking to favored. And so the rabbi mentioned that Rabbi Kook, actually being the Kabbalist, had a different take. Incidentally, Rabbi Kook was famous for having written a book called The Lights of Teshuvah, Orot HaTeshuvah. Let me read this. This is from my Wikipedia search, quick search. Rabbi Kook's concept of Teshuvah, return or repentance, is a broad, optimistic force for healing and growing that applies to individuals, the nation of Israel, and the entire world, not just a remedy for sin. In his work, Orot HaTeshuvah, The Lights of Teshuvah, he describes it as a process of returning to one's truest, purest self, leading to personal well-being and a renewed connection to God. Teshuvah can be a sudden, illuminating act or a gradual journey, and it restores spiritual and physical health by bringing more light to life. And I thought that beautifully related to the Jewish concept of, one may call it evil, one may call it sin. It's that we are created in the image of God, first of all, as it says in Genesis chapter 1 or 2. And that our truest self would be to do good, and that these external factors come in and may drive us away from the straight path. That's why we need Teshuvah, to return, to literally turn around back to going on the path. You've strayed, now you need to go back. You've deviated, you need to go back and continue on the correct path. And I think that's a more optimistic view of humanity. I think that's a healthy and optimistic view of humanity. And it also got me thinking about this concept in mental health. Dr. Schwartz, if I remember his name correctly, I don't remember his first name offhand, but I talked about him in earlier videos. He had been a therapist, and he had dealt with family systems dynamics. In other words, several members of a family would sit together and there would be dynamics. He knows that there are dynamics amongst family members, how they interrelate. And so that's family systems. And so he noticed that some patients or some people seeing him would tell him that some part of me feels this way and another part of me feels that way. And he developed this innovative idea called internal family systems, IFS, where the model says that our minds, each of our minds, is composed of several different members, and they have different dynamics. For me, it elegantly explained a possible reason for why people could have addictions. I like to think of drinking or smoking. I mean, not that I drink or smoke, but it's an easy, quick comparison. Why is it that somebody knows smoking is wrong, could know he's having health problems, it's causing problems, same thing with drinking, however, he continues to drink, continues to smoke? Well, this model could say that part of him is intellectually aware of the damages and knows that he shouldn't be doing it, but another part is trying to soothe some pain that it has by drinking or smoking. In other words, it does comfort that wounded part, but another part knows that intellectually it's not good for him in the long run. Or in the short run, depending on how much he's already smoked, how poor his health already is. So Dr. Schwartz came up with this concept of the inner true self, that there are 8 C's, and I don't remember all of them, but it's courage, compassion, curiosity, creativity, and a whole bunch of other C's that are traits that make up this inner true self. And these other injured parts are around that inner self. And and calm, I think, is another one of those C's. He found that when the person feels most calm, it's when they are in that true self, those inner C, those 8 C's. So I thought of that in relation to what Rabbi Kook was talking about by the truest self. You have a truest self, and there are these external forces or external aspects that may cause you to go off the right path, the healthy path. But you need to straighten, you need to go back, you need to return to Teshuvah, return to or turn around to the straight path again. I also thought of the Star Wars trilogy and the concept of the Force. The Force has been very mystically described. For those of you who aren't Star Wars fans, let me describe the Force in brief. It's presented in a sort of a religious way and a spiritual way in the Star Wars trilogy. Luke Skywalker experiences, he goes through an arc during the 3 original movies, and in the 3rd movie, the climactic movie of the trilogy, he's very calm, he's self-assured, he's confident, maybe another one of those C's I'll have to check, and I remember in the previous movie, Empire Strikes Back, he's being trained by Yoda. What are some things that Yoda, some may call him a sensei, some things that Yoda describes about the Force? He said, at one point, Luke asks him, how will I know the dark side, meaning the aggressive, ugly side that Darth Vader has gone down from the light side, or the good side, I think he calls it. And Yoda says, you will know when you're calm, at peace. In other words, there are no voices, there's no external distraction. Um, and that implies that you instinctively know the good, healthy path. If you just sit calmly, you take away, you remove yourself from distractions as best. You extract yourself from distractions as best you can, and your good instincts will kick in. And I think that's a very Jewish mindset. Um, and I recommend you watch Empire Strikes Back. I recommend you watch the entire, at least the original Star Wars trilogy. But I hope in this I've described my concept and how of Teshuvah. Well, I've described. I hope I've described the concept of Teshuvah well, and how I found relationships between internal family systems and the Kabbalistic interpretation of Teshuvah, and Star Wars concept of the Force, George Lucas's concept of the Force. As this rabbi was presenting at the lectern yesterday in that YouTube video, they're all the same thing. They're just aspects. They're merely aspects of the same thing, different perspectives of the same thing. So, those Jews amongst you in the audience, keep that in mind as we approach Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and the 10 holiest days of the year. And those of you who are not Jews, please still keep it in mind. It's very important concept of life. And please spread news of this channel. I'm developing it further. As I said before, I'm going to get a microphone, a studio microphone, so the voice will sound better. I'm going to work on visuals. I'm going to working with ChatGPT to design a better opening, possibly closing, a whole structure. I just want to overall improve the channel because I'm envious of YouTube content creators. For example, what's her name? Noor, Jasmine, and a lot of other content creators. They put a lot of work into their videos, and I commend them, and I want to be better at creating these videos. So with that said, I hope you have a good rest of your day and a good week, and I'll talk to you soon.